Howdy. It's been a minute. It's been like, what, 3 months since I uploaded? Probably, when this comes out. We moved. As you can see, we got a nice water heater right here, electrical panel. So I'd say the room got a pretty big upgrade. We're here because during the moving process, I learned to appreciate the 3D Sonic games in a way that I didn't think I would. So let's get started. I want to go through each 3D Sonic game monthly, or until I get burnt out on the subject. But I want to go through each 3D Sonic game and talk about their good qualities and their bad qualities and what they've improved on with each game, because I think especially the adventure games and basically every 3D Sonic game for that matter gets a bad rap. I don't think that that's fair. I also believe that Sonic Forces is the worst and most disappointing Sonic game in the entire series, and I will back that up with white boy sits in chair and complains opinions. Back that up. I'm not gonna have concrete evidence. You kidding me? So with that, let's get started. Besides saying the obvious, people say that Sonic's transition to 3D was rocky because I think due to the passage of time, people forgot what made a Sonic game a Sonic game. Sonic was, at least in Sonic 1 to 3 and Knuckles, a game series about exploring levels and getting progressively better and faster at playing through the levels in subsequent playthroughs. While I will never say Sonic was a slow, methodical series, it is not a game series that I believe you're supposed to be great at from the start. Due to the advent of the internet being in everyone's living room and no longer being this weird niche thing that only nerds and geeks use, opinions have been rampant about the series as a whole. The cool thing has been for popular Let's Players who know how to activate glitches in the game to pretend that the game is unstable. And, oh my god. Holy shit, did he really just die to Chaos Zero? Really? That's, almost more impressive than anyway. For me, I've used Sonic as a punchline for years now, but after having the urge to sit through Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 again, and realizing I liked them a lot more than I used to, I wanted to play through the rest of the 3D Sonic games to see what I was missing out on, because there's a good handful that I haven't played. What I've learned in this adventure is that some opinions are correct, some are blown way out of proportion, and some I don't hear expressed enough. So I want to right those wrongs by playing through each and every single one of them and making a decently sized video about my opinions on each one of them. So the first one up on our little Sonic marathon here is Sonic Adventure. Specifically, when I decided to play this for myself and have some fun, I played the PS3 port of Sonic Adventure DX. Don't play the PS3 port of Sonic Adventure DX. It is the most unstable and glitchy version of the game. I don't know how a game that is over 20 years old gets ported to a console that is almost 20 years old is the most broken way to play it, but apparently that is the case. So keep that in mind. The footage that you're going to see is a modded version of the Steam port, which is already not a great port, but I used a mod that changes the visuals from the weird glossy DX port to the nicer Dreamcast looking graphics and takes it from a 4:3 aspect ratio all the way to widescreen so that way you could see what you're doing and it's more fun. I will have links to this mod in the description. It is super easy to install. If you're gonna play the game, I highly suggest playing it like this. It also uncompresses the voice files because for some reason the DX port is still compressed and it sounds garbage. It doesn't sound great. The audio mixing in the game is not amazing. We'll get into that, but the voice would compress. Why?
It's got a few bugs to iron out.
Why not just use my plane, the Tornado?
Thanks, but you gotta check out my newest power supply. Ta-da!
Whoa! A Chaos Emerald!
Sonic Adventure was released in the year of this disgusting thing's birth, 1998, for the Sega Dreamcast, a depressing tale of a console that I don't have time to get into today, but we'll probably dive more into with our next game. The game wasn't originally going to be what we have today. Originally, the first 3D Sonic game was supposed to be Sonic Extreme on the Sega Saturn, but it was on the Sega Saturn, so it didn't happen. Development was hell, to say the least. Numerous delays, engine rebuilds, and then finally cancellations led to Sonic Adventure. In the game, you play 6 characters, some old, some new to the Sonic series, those being Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, last seen in Sonic CD, and the 2 newcomers, E102 Gamma and Big the Cat, who wants to fish. Each character having their own gameplay style and level gimmick. Basically, each character goes through the same levels as Sonic, but each level has little design changes here and there to accommodate for their levels. Except for maybe Tails, but we'll get there. The way we're going to go about talking about this game is we're going to save the story till the end, because it tries to be needlessly complicated, and it doesn't need to be this complicated. It is not a hard story to follow. I'm legitimately just going to do a really quick summary of it at the end, and you'll get the gist. But the way that they do it is it's a non-linear storytelling thing, so you play as one character, and then some events of that character lead into the other character with now more things building upon that. It gets really confusing, and then there's flashbacks to like lore from like decades prior. It's confusing, and it doesn't need to be that confusing. So we're just going to talk about the gameplay, and then we're going to save the story till the end. Got it? Okay, here we go. Sonic story, here he comes, boys. Sonic's gameplay to me is best described as the perfect adaptation from 2D Sonic to 3D Sonic. Something I will guarantee you about this game is that any Let's Play you watch of this game, this corner will always be an issue. Whenever I've played this game, I've never had an issue with it, and I'm not the only one who has had the same experience. Sonic's gameplay consists of running, obviously, and platforming through fairly linear levels, but what makes these levels special is how big they are. You are given a clear path to the end, but most of Sonic's levels excel in horizontal and vertical exploration. The path may be clear in the middle, but to the left or the right there may be some rings, or a capsule with a life, and sometimes you're going through a level, but above you will be a path that goes through a cave, and it's a faster route, just like in the 2D games. This game specifically has some of the most fun and satisfying controls to get good at. Specifically the section here in Lost World, one of Sonic's last levels. Sure, the section looks like nothing but running down a hallway, but you need to have an innate understanding of how sensitive the controls are in order to run down this hallway without bumping into any of the walls, and as smoothly as possible. It's all about the subtle things in Sonic's controls that make him so satisfying to control once you understand all of the tiny little things that the game wants you to understand. The last thing I'll say specifically about Sonic's campaign is the music. I think it's widely accepted that by Sonic CD is when Sonic music got stupid good, and Adventure continues that tradition. Emerald Coast has a sound that matches its environment perfectly. Windy Valley has a great floaty flow to its music. I'm not a music person. I don't know how to describe music well, so you just have to deal with that. Casinopolis is like the only song in the game that I'm not a big fan of. The song itself is fine, but the length of the level makes the tune pretty repetitive. Ice Cap is a more atmospheric and twinkly sound to blend into the snowy mountainscape. Followed by a rock ballad at the end of the level for snowboarding down the mountain. Twinkle Park music is also pretty standard. It sounds fine for a theme park inspired level, not much more to say about that. Speed Highway. Now this is where the music comes to amazing guitar riffs, fantastic beats that fall so rhythmically to the gameplay, and the is the cherry on top. Red Mountain song is really good as well. But once you fall into the volcano, the music gets funky. Yeah, I don't know why the fuck the music does this, but I love it. I have no idea how to describe or what it is, but I really like it. I kind of wish there was a little bit more experimental, weird music like this in the rest of the game, but for what it is here, it's great. Skydeck continues the rock theme, but it's not as radical as Speed Highway's song. Lost World is up next and has an otherworldly sound to it. And that's not to say that it doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard before, it's just for the tone of the game, I haven't heard anything like it in this game so far. The song does a great job of setting up the tone for a level taking place in the distant past. Sonic's last level is Final Egg, and has a great sound for the last level of Sonic's story. It has a techno-sounding backing track, which fits the tone of Eggman's ship well, and a sick guitar riff that has been stuck in my head for going on 15 years now. All in all, Sonic's story has the most levels and the most in-depth version of those levels out of any character in the game, and definitely is a fantastic first attempt, and while there are definitely some things that could be improved, The gameplay is still fantastic and doesn't feel like it has aged poorly like everyone would have you thinking. After that, we have Tails campaign, and it's really nothing special. This will be a really quick rundown of Tails campaign, and I mean like quick. Tails' story can best be described as Diet Sonic levels. They're all like the exact same levels, but either really condensed and short levels, or they just take place at the latter half of the Sonic level. So like for Ice Cap, you skip all the beginning of the Sonic level and you just go to the end when you're snowboarding. Or Windy Valley, you skip the tornado part, which is the middle of the level leading into the end, and you just go right to the last part of the level. The entire goal of Tails campaign is to race somebody, mostly Sonic, until the last level when you're racing Eggman, and beat them. The problem is Sega did not think about how to make Tails' flying not completely broken in a 3D environment, so Tails can just go wherever he wants, and it's just like the easiest thing in the world. You will not lose because you lost the race. You will lose because you tried to do something dumb with Tails' tail flying ability and overshot or undershot a flight. I get why they did Tails' gameplay the way that they did, because technically in Sonic's story, Tails is with him the whole time, so it makes sense. The problem is Tails' gameplay is more vertically focused, while Sonic's levels are more horizontal in design. So while Tails is flying upwards, if you time and plan some maneuvers correctly, you can skip large portions of the level. There are also these fan things that blast you across a section of a level as well. So in combination of some Tails maneuvers and these fans, Tails' story lasts about 20 minutes if you skip all the story cutscenes. Even shorter in some cases, I've seen much shorter. The only great part about Tails' campaign is what it does to improve Tails' character. Once Sonic Stories ends, Tails has to finish off Eggman, who is going to use a bomb in the city to level Station Square. After the boss fight, Tails hears the sound of the citizens of Station Square cheering him on. It makes Tails see that he can do things for himself, and he doesn't need Sonic to lean on all the time. It's great character progression for Tails that will be expanded upon in the next game, and then, spoiler, will immediately be forgotten about afterwards, but we'll get there in due time. That's genuinely it for Tails. All in all, he's probably my least favorite gameplay segments in terms of the game itself, just because it doesn't do anything new. Knuckles is our next story, and where I'd say Tails was a missed opportunity, Knuckles is brilliant in his execution. Knuckles has always been a fan favorite character, so to see that he would get levels that are praised as much as they are is great to see, because they did something new and different instead of just doing what, Sonic 3 and Knuckles did, which was you had Sonic's game, you had Tails' game, and then Knuckles' game was exactly the same, except now they were redesigned slightly so that you could climb up some cliffs or there was more places to glide. Here, they're the same levels that Sonic goes through, but they are done completely different and more in like a box type of shape. And we'll get into that as we get into the level overview. Where we go. Knuckles' campaign restructures some of Sonic's levels to be more of a box shape, with no places to really run quick and pick up speed. That is because Knuckles' levels are scavenger hunts for shards of the Master Emerald. Knuckles' story is where the game starts chronologically to explain and explore who Chaos is and where he came from. Chaos is the big boss of the game. By the way, I don't know if I've mentioned that. I can't remember. This script is a nightmare. Again, we'll go into the story as a whole at the end, because it's just easier to do that. Knuckles stages are big exploratory levels that work on a hot and cold system. You have a radar at the bottom of the screen with a silhouette of the Master Emerald shard. As you get closer to the shards you're hunting for, the silhouettes start to beep and change colors depending on how close you are. The colors are shouted out when nowhere near, blue when it's in range, green is cold, yellow is warmer, red is fire, meaning it's like right next to you. Just grab it, dude. Just grab it, please! It's a great change of pace from Sonic and Tails' campaign, while not trying to copy the flow of either one of the two. It does something different and does that something different dangerously well. Something we haven't talked about yet is the credits song at the end of each story. Each story has its own separate credits and their own credits song, and each one, besides one, I think, has lyrics to go with it that try to kind of tell a story or keep a tone of like what the character is about. So Knuckles, for example, his song is called Unknown from ME, and it's a rap song, and it's kind of goofy and kind of funny, but I think it does a good job explaining who Knuckles is as a character in this game and what his life's goal was with protecting the Master Emerald, and not really knowing why he's been given this job to do for the rest of his life, but he's not gonna not do it because the fate of the world rests on it. So it does a decent job. I think the rap could be kind of considered campy and goofy, but I kind of like it.
Yourself with them evil spirits that's in you. Streaking lights.
Tails' song is called Believe in Myself, and I think it's fine. I'm not a big fan of it. I kind of think I don't want to shit on the singer, but I don't think that they did a great job singing. Again, I'm not a music person. I don't I don't do the music, so I take with a grain of salt. But I don't think the song is that great. I think the lyrics are fine for Tails' character, but as a song itself, it's not something I'll listen to without playing the game and just having to sit through the credits song. Sonic's, however, boy, Sonic's theme, It Doesn't Matter, is a great song. It amplifies the character as he was in the 90s, and it's just this radical rock and roll whatever, and the song is just about how it doesn't matter if whatever Sonic is doing is considered right or wrong, as long as it helps a person in need, he doesn't care, basically. And I think that's great for his character and what he amplified at the time of like the radical 90s era. I think it fits perfectly, and it's a good song to match too. It's fun, it's catchy, I like it. So next up on the docket for characters is Amy. Amy's gameplay is boring. So next it's Big the Cat. I'm joking, of course, but not really. Amy's is the shortest story by far. Clocking in at just 3 levels, there isn't a whole lot to talk about with her gameplay. What is there for Amy's gameplay is a survival horror type beat. She's slower than every other character in the game and must keep running away from an Eggman robot, Zero, who is chasing her throughout her levels. Amy can pick up some speed, and when she does, you'll see her hammer pop out from her right hand, and when that happens, if you hit the attack button, you will flip through the air and gain some high air and also some decent speed going forward. That's really the only mechanical thing Amy has to her, and even still, that's really it for Amy's gameplay. There's more going on in her story, but we'll get there. And even still, her story is more or less a footnote on the broader plot. That's straight up it for Amy's gameplay. It is so ungodly short. I think the only thing of mention or of note to mention is when you're escaping the jail cell, you have to play whack-a-mole and beat Eggman's pathetic high score, and when you do, he is so goddamn flabbergasted that you beat his high score. It's really funny. Like, I fucking love Shadow's character in 06. That was the last time Tails was playable, too. Other than that, Amy's gameplay is short and sweet and done in like 10 minutes if you skip all the story stuff. The last thing to talk about Amy specifically is her credit song. It's called My Sweet Passion. It's fine. It's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It's okay. It's an okay credit song. I'm just not a fan of it. But next up in the character docket is Sega's favorite character to use ironically for memes now, and it's really annoying. Sega, please stop. Big the Cat. Big the Cat does not matter in the story even a little. It's his frog that does. But that being said, we're here to talk about his gameplay, not his story. So how does this fat f***ing purple cat play in a Sonic game? He fishes. You go fishing. You know, the speedy hobby that your dad probably does, going outside and fishing rapidly. Fast-paced fishing action. He fishes. I'm joking, of course. It's not fast. You play a fishing game with Big the Cat to catch a frog. He has 3 levels, and once you know what you're doing, you can finish his entire story in like 15 minutes if you're skipping the cutscenes. So let's go back to the Let's Play angle again. If you watch people play this game, Big the Cat section will always last the longest because everyone says Big's gameplay doesn't make sense, or the fishing is so tedious. Listen, Aaron. We know you're joking, but just in case, here's a step-by-step guide demonstrated on an Xbox One controller for you, right here. Ready? So, when you're playing, and I'm holding it the wrong way, so like this is gonna be wild. When So I know that you were playing it on a GameCube controller when you played it. So I should have gotten that, but I got an Xbox controller next to me, and that's just the best I got. You just got to do what you got to do. So when you're playing with Big, right? You're running around, you're doing whatever. You cast a line with B, and then you watch the line. You can move it around, so it does work a little different here. Left is right and right is left. It's just because the ocean obscures the direction or whatever the explanation they had. I don't know. Anyway, when you catch a fish and or froggy, you wiggle this because it acts like when you're really fishing and you do this to land the hook. You do the to land the hook in the fish's mouth. That's what this does. And then as soon as that happens, you just hold this and make sure that the bar doesn't fill up, because then your line snaps and you lose. You just gotta keep holding, letting go, and holding and letting go. And slowly but surely, you will reel in this goddamn frog, and it takes 2 minutes. You will be looking for him longer than you will be fishing for him. It is so easy. I get why people don't like Big's gameplay. I'm not the biggest fan of it either, but dear God, I'll defend it, just because of all the vitriolic shit that Big the Cat has gotten through the years. And now this weird, ironic meme fan base that has built up in the recent future just completely undermines what Big was as a character. And to be fair, Big wasn't much of a character. I'm not going to say that he has some deep meaning. He was made to fill up a quota of 6 characters and to show off how great water physics looked on the Dreamcast. That's pretty much it. Big's main claim to fame is fishing, a tech demo for water on the Dreamcast, and just being a country bumpkin with a frog for a friend. Big is fun and stupid, and he's stupid on purpose. He doesn't need to be this ironic joke character for Twitter. Anyway, that's it. This will be my only time to speak my piece on Big the Cat, because he deserves to be a little bit more than just this ironic Twitter meme. His gameplay is fine, he's fine as a character, as well as his theme song. It is also fine. Big the Cat's theme is called Lazy Days, or parentheses, Living in Paradise. And it's a goofy kind of sounding song that fits the absurdity of Big's character. And our next character is the best character that Sega has ever made, E102 Gamma. And he will also, once we're done talking about his gameplay, lead us into the story breakdown. So, are you ready, kids? E102 Gamma's gameplay is a fast-paced shooter where you run through levels as fast as you can, because unlike everyone else, Gamma's levels are all timed. You can gain more time back depending on how many enemies you defeat. In order to do so, you just hold down the action button, so B on an Xbox controller, and let the laser lock onto multiple targets. Once you release the button, that's when bullets go flying. After the carnage is done, you're then rewarded with seconds added to the clock. The only problem with this mechanic is that the lock-on mechanics are too busted and the levels just aren't long enough for the time limit to matter. And even if that wasn't the case, the amount of enemies in every era is just so plentiful that as long as you're just holding the button and releasing it consistently, you'll finish every level with double the time you started with. Unfortunately, the cons don't end there. All but 2 of Gamma's boss fights are some of the most monotonous boss fights in the game. You just have to stand directly in front of the boss and mash the B button, and you win. Where Gamma sticks out, though, is in the control. Gamma's levels are so much fun to run through, and Gamma's story is fantastic and more or less separated from the main story, along with Big's story. The last thing to mention about Gamma is his theme song, theme of E102 Gamma. It's a fantastic orchestral sounding song that represents Gamma as a character. We'll get more into that in his story specifically. It does a great job of amplifying the character from intimidating to contemplation to heroic to the tragedy of the character. And again, we'll get into that during his story. But I think the song itself fits Gamma's character perfectly, and he's the best character Sega's ever made because they haven't done anything with him. I haven't done anything to ruin what they set up in this game, and we'll get into why that is in a bit. Without further ado, let's talk about the story leading up to the main story. The to-call stuff that happened decades prior to the main story. It's important, trust me. I know. The way the game does its storytelling is much more confusing than it needs to be, so I'm going to structure it like this, from point A to B. So our story starts with the Echidna tribe, many years before the main story. We get to see them thriving and vibing, but then, the chief Echidna wants to use the Master Emerald for more power and for some war that they're fighting in, but it isn't explained at all. Tikal, the chief's daughter, tries to do everything she can to stop her father from using the power of the Master Emerald, because once he has this power, all he's gonna want is more and more. Eventually, the chief has enough and demands Tikal let him use the Master Emerald for the last time. When she refuses, he commands his men to stampede the shrine, trampling Tikal and the Chow that were standing there defending the shrine. Don't worry about the Chow in this game like at all. There's a Chow garden. It sucks. We're going to get into what the Chow are in Adventure 2. Spoiler, I'm doing one on Adventure 2 as well. Hold on. We'll get there. They're barely important to this story, and they're barely fun to do anything with in this game. We'll get there in 2. All right, back to it. After the chief and his men storm, we hear them all scream, and then it cuts to black.
Oh, it's a monster! No!
Hey, look, it's me, Editor Trent. How you doing? A quick aside that I forgot to mention about the Tikal backstory garbage. Don't worry about the fact that Sonic and crew are in these cutscenes from like 200 years ago or some garbage. They're flashbacks that they interact with in the game. It's stupid. I hate it. It doesn't make much sense, which is why we went about it this way. Okay, bye, back to it. Tikal comes to and runs up to the shrine. She sees Chaos about to end the world or whatever. He's just kind of standing there in the cutscene, to be completely honest with you, and seals herself and him in the Master Emerald together in order to keep Chaos from breaking free. Now, there's our lore leading up to the main story of Sonic Adventure. It's not all there, and you get a lot more information when playing the game, but that's really the gist. The other stuff that's kind of there is just kind of there to confuse you, and I guess build up more lore behind. But that's like just the main stuff. All right, into the story now. And quite honestly, I was going to do a chronological breakdown of where the story starts from Gamma, and then chronologically do it the whole way, but halfway through breaking it down, I was just like, this is going to take way too long, and it's not worth it. So we're going to simplify this story in the simplest way possible, period, because there's no real reason to do it any other way. It's not a complex story, like at all. So simply, the story is Eggman destroys the Master Emerald and unleashes a god of sorts named Chaos, while also unknowingly unleashing a small floating sparkle, which, since we had the lore, we now know is Tikal. Okay, so it's up to Sonic and Tails to stop Eggman and Knuckles to find the shards of the destroyed Master Emerald so that Angel Island can return to being the floating island it was always meant to be. That's another thing. Angel Island, which is where Knuckles is, it's a floating island in the sky, and it just kind of like hovers there, but if and it's floating with the power of the Master Emerald, but if the Master Emerald is destroyed or taken, the island crashes. And Knuckles is like, yo, what the why is this here? So now he has to go find that and rebuild the Master Emerald so it can go back up. Alright, gotcha. But what are the 3 other characters doing? To be honest, their stories are, barring Gamma, kind of lame. Amy's story starts about halfway through Sonic's story when he goes to Twinkle Park because a bird flew into her face. And that's not a joke, it just did. So she makes sure the bird is okay before running for her life from one of Eggman's robots named Zero. The bird that Amy is keeping safe has a Chaos Emerald strapped around its neck, and Zero wants that emerald because Eggman wants it. He's commanded to get it. That's really it for Amy's story, apart from that one scene that she has with Gamma, but we'll get into that when we talk Gamma. Big just wants his frog. Big story kicks off when Angel Island falls. The crashing of the island wakes up Froggy, not Big, and he goes to investigate and is attacked by Chaos. Since Chaos is a water monster and Big lives in a swamp, Chaos just kind of swam through the water and just like dove inside of Froggy, I guess. Chaos goes inside of Froggy's mouth, I guess. And Froggy grows a tail and swallows the Chaos Emerald Big had on his nightstand, because of course he did. So Big's entire story is fishing for his pet/friend Frog, while the frog does everything it can to get onto the egg carrier. I would go much more in depth with everyone, but until the ending, there isn't much to touch on. Sonic's story ends with him destroying the egg carrier, Tails' story ends with him destroying Eggman's final robot and preventing a bomb from blowing up Station Square. Knuckles' story ends once he has all the Master Shards. So, yeah, basically as soon as he gets all the shards, he just dips. He just says, I'm out of here, and leaves. Amy's story ends aboard the crashed egg carrier after she fights Zero and frees the bird inside it, which was her bird's friend, family member, someone important. Big's story ends with him stealing Tails' plane and fly back down to his swamp with Froggy after Big fishes it out of Chaos 6. Yeah, as for Gamma, we're gonna go into Gamma a little bit because I really like Gamma as a character. Gamma's story is actually what starts the adventure off chronologically, barring the Tikal backstory stuff. Once the adventure story starts going, it's Gamma that starts it. Eggman creates Gamma and has low expectations about him. After Gamma blasts through Eggman's training stage, Eggman decides to give Gamma one more test to destroy Gamma's predecessor, E-101 Beta. After doing so, Eggman is surprised with Gamma's performance and exclaims that his elite egg carrier crew is assembled, but that excludes Beta. Beta then begs for a spot on the crew, to which Eggman says that they will use him for spare parts. So this takes us to Gamma getting his first mission. Him and his brothers, quote-unquote, the robots, are given the mission to hunt down a frog with a tail that swallowed the Chaos Emerald. That being Froggy from Big Story. You see how this all connect? Okay, cool. After Gamma plays through a truncated Emerald Coast, he collects Froggy and presents it to Eggman. Eggman goes down the lines of the other E-Series robots and insults the other robots for failing the mission until he sees E102 Gamma actually has the correct frog. Eggman then sends the other robots off to other places throughout the game. For example, E103 Delta gets sent to Windy Valley, and E104 Epsilon gets sent to Red Mountain. Before the other robots are teleported away, E103 Delta looks over at Gamma before leaving, in a pleading sort of way. I want to take a second here to explain kind of the thought process behind the cutscenes and what I have to do for them. So this game was very, very, very new for the Dreamcast and for this type of storytelling. So the cutscenes are all done in engine, which is why some of the characters behave weird or like jump from poses, because they did not have a smoothing animation because they were all done within the engine of Sonic Adventure. So what we get is kind of a weird, funny, goofy looking story, and I'm sure you've seen it. So I kind of have to infer that when E103 is here and then in one frame goes like that, he's looking at Gamma pleading. I'm hoping. I don't know though. In the middle of this, I do also want to say the Gamma story is that good that if somebody wanted to reanimate it in like Source Filmmaker or something that gives you just a little bit more freedom, I think it would be super good. I can't do that. I'm not talented, which is why I make YouTube videos. Hi, everybody. Anyway, back to the story. Afterwards, Eggman tells Gamma that there's a prisoner with an emerald that he needs, and Gamma is to go get that from the prisoner. Gamma walks through the door he thought was the jail, but unfortunately he walks through the wrong door, and we see what happened to his poor brother Beta. He sees Beta getting ripped apart and rebuilt and stripped for parts. Gamma quickly leaves, goes into the other door, and enters the jail he was supposed to go in. Now this will tie us into that part of Amy's story that I said we'll get to, so here it is. She is the prisoner here. At one point during her story, Zero captures her and takes her as prisoner. Gamma's job here is to get the bird from her and leave, but Amy won't give up the bird. Amy talks to Gamma about how she's going to protect the bird even though they don't really know each other, and Gamma can't comprehend why somebody would risk their lives protecting someone that she isn't personally connected to. Amy basically says because it's the right thing to do, and the bird flies into Gamma's face and looks at him for a while. After this, something clicks inside of Gamma and he lets Amy free. Amy tells Gamma that they're friends now, and then she leaves, followed by Gamma. Gamma's called the Egg Carrier deck, where there's a small boss fight against Sonic that plays out a little differently in Sonic's story. Sonic wins, and this one Gamma wins, but whatever. At the end of the fight, Amy stops Sonic from finishing Gamma off, and Gamma again asks why. And Amy says it's because they're friends now. Afterwards, the story plays out, the Egg Carrier explodes, everyone leaves. Gamma, however, on his descent down to the Mystic Ruins, overwrites his basic programming and decides that he needs to set his robot brothers free. So this sends Gamma to the Windy Valley to find E103 Delta. Once he finds Delta, he destroys him, freeing the bird inside of him from captivity. Ever since the first Sonic game, whenever you destroyed an Eggman robot, a little animal would burst out of the robot. You were basically freeing the animals because Eggman was using them to control the robots. So what Adventure did is it tied that into the story, so each one of these robots is being controlled by an animal against their will. In this case, it's birds. And Gamma basically overwrote himself so that way he would go and free his brothers by killing them, freeing the bird inside of them and out of captivity. Back to it. Afterwards, Gamma heads to Red Mountain to destroy E104 Epsilon. I'll comment on these boss fights real quick here because this is the last one that is just the same as the other fights. Gamma's boss fights are pitifully easy. Literally just walk up to the boss, straight on, and mash B. You don't have to move, you don't have to do anything else, you will win. Thankfully, the last bosses are different. After this, Gamma heads to the hot shelter on the crashed egg carrier. That's the cool thing I like about Gamma, is he starts off the story chronologically and he ends the story chronologically. I think that's a neat thing to do. He's here to hunt down E105 Zeta, who has been upgraded into this weird donut arena thing, and Gamma just has to shoot Zeta's cannons. Again, not hard, but it's different. After destroying Zeta, Gamma leaves and realizes that he's the last one, and prepares to take himself out before he sees Beta fly by, now going by E101 MK2. He is Gamma's final boss, and he's the trickiest boss fight of Gamma's story. By that, though, I really just mean it's time-consuming. It's a lot of just waiting until the boss shows its weak spots. With every hit, it takes longer and longer for the boss to show its weak point. After the fight, though, E101 MK2 explodes, and Gamma starts to walk away, but he sustained too much damage from the fight and can't make it. Gamma collapses and proceeds to explode, setting the bird inside of him free. The last thing we see from Gamma's story is a picture of the birds inside of Gamma and Beta flying away together. Gamma's story works so well, in my opinion, because it tells a weirdly serious story that you wouldn't expect from a Sonic game. And like I said previously, I would love to see the exact same like dialogue and voice acting lines just reanimated and reworked a little bit, because I think it's a great like short Sonic fan film, if you want to call it that. I think it's amazing. And the reason that he's still probably one of the best characters Sega has ever made is just because Sega kept him dead. Besides showing up in like spin-offs that aren't canon, like racing games and stuff, Gamma hasn't come back. This is hit. This is all he's known for, is this game. And all he's done is gone on a genocide to kill his friends and then himself. I think it's really interesting that this is one of the characters we got in a Sonic game that we just have never seen again. And it doesn't sound too impressive that Sega kept a character dead, because it's like, well, yeah, a character's dead. As we will see, characters that die in Sonic games don't stay dead most of the time. Unless you're Gamma or Maria, you're coming back. So finally, let's talk the final story of this long-ass video, and then let's get out of here, boys. All right, here we go. The final story is where all of the Tikal stuff that we went through in the beginning of this finally comes into fruition. A little bit. In the final story, we see Angel Island fall again. Afterwards, we see Eggman and his cute little Professor X ship chair thing flying through the jungle / swamp, whatever it is, where Big lives, stating,
He always seems to get in my way. I bet he can foil my master plan. Chaos!
After that little scene, we then see Knuckles standing at the Master Emerald Shrine, wondering why Angel Island has fallen again, even though the Master Emerald is where it belongs. While in his contemplative state, he sees Eggman lying on the ground, crashed out of his little car thing, and he's laying there breathing rapidly. Knuckles runs down to Eggman, where he says,
This is terrible. Chaos is...
Is what?
and it is presumed Chaos attacked Knuckles too. We then see Sonic just chilling in the Mystic Ruin, straight vibing, saying he'll probably take another vacation, the lazy bitch. His moment of peace is interrupted, however, by Tails. Tails tells Sonic that he needs to follow him. Angel Island has fallen again, so Sonic and Tails run up to the Angel Island crash site, and we see Knuckles and Eggman laying on the ground. Knuckles tells Sonic that Chaos is still alive and took all the emeralds now. Eggman shoots up and climbs into his little chair thingy and flies away, saying,
He's not gonna get away with this.
Knuckles gives Sonic a final warning that Chaos is a fearsome beast. Tikal sparkles, then flies into Sonic's face, and we get that scene I've already talked about with the Echidna tribe trampling the Chows and Tikal to get the Master Emerald, yada yada yada. We do learn from this scene, however, that the Chaos Emeralds can make any thought into reality, and that is how their power works. And also that the Chaos Emeralds have a negative and positive power source. Got that? Good. So to continue, Tails snaps Sonic out of his catatonic state, and the best cutscene in the game plays.
I was on a snooze cruise, I guess.
Good thing you're okay.
Tails then tells Sonic that Knuckles left already. I guess while Sonic was just standing there, he just left and figured he'd be alright. Tails tells Sonic not to worry though, because the Tornado 2 still has one emerald on it, so as long as they can get to the Tornado 2 before Chaos, then they'll be okay. So Sonic and Tails rush into the jungle where the Tornado 2 was taken by Big, which, side note, Sonic and Tails should not know where that is. We know where it is because we were shown. They were not, but it's fine. Don't think about it too hard. Once arriving, they see the emerald is still there, even though we were shown Chaos, in theory, taking the emerald in the beginning of the final story, but it's fine. Anyway, as soon as they see the Tornado 2, a pillar of water shoots up from the bottom of the airplane, and once everything settles, the emerald is gone. We then see Station Square getting destroyed and flooded by what is now perfect chaos. Don't worry though, Eggman is back with the Egg Carrier 2, which he says was specifically made in case something like this happens. Amazingly enough, Eggman is here to save the day. With weapons drawn and ready to destroy perfect chaos, it's time for it to meet its mate. Nope, there he goes. He's gone. Okay. So after Eggman dies, I guess, Tikal finally is able to show herself. I guess because Chaos is now in his ultimate form, there is nothing Tikal can do to keep him calm. I guess she tells Sonic that he used to be a peaceful creature, but after the Echidna trampled his beloved Chow, he's full of anger and sadness. Tikal sealed herself away in the Master Emerald with the Chaos to try and calm him. Thanks to Eggman messing with the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds themselves, everything has been thrown awry. So after a smidgen more exposition, the gang finds the Chaos Emeralds, and they're grayed out. Tails then says that Chaos used the negative power of the Chaos Emerald, however, Sonic can use the positive power of the Chaos Emerald. Yeah, I know it's stupid, but this is also a game about a blue hedgehog, so shh. Sonic then uses the Chaos Emeralds to turn into a Super Sonic, and thus begins the final level. It's a boss fight where you need to push forward and dodge projectiles, and flying into perfect chaos to attack its brain directly. while continuously building up speed and not losing it. While the boss fight is playing out, we get the absolute banger of a song by the band Crush 40, that song in question being Open Your Heart. It's a testament to how good of a singer Johnny Gioli is, but Open Your Heart is the only song that Crush 40 did not write and wasn't written in English to begin with. So that means that most of the lines don't rhyme, but it doesn't matter, because the song just sounds so good that lines like while written out, kind of look dumb, hearing it actually be sung is a different story. After the fight is over, we see that Chaos has mellowed out and is now able to see that the Chow haven't died off. Takal tells Chaos that the Chow actually survived and lived peacefully with humans. Takal then walks over to Chaos, tells him that the fighting is over and everything is peaceful, minus the countless people that are super dead in Station Square, but besides that, all good. Takal and Chaos then float into the heavens, I guess, and they're gone forever.
All's well that ends well, right?
Tails, at least hundreds are dead, my guy. What? Then Sonic sees Eggman floating in his cute little chair thing that Yoda had, and that one time and then never again, you know the one, and flies away, and Sonic gives chase. Open Your Heart plays in full during the final credits, and that wraps up our Sonic Adventure retrospective thing. This went on a lot longer than I expected it to. Just wanted to add a quick section here on character development. Even though we had one for Tails, there's a little bit more that went on, so let me just get into that quick. Sonic doesn't really change, Knuckles doesn't really either. Eggman is more of the same, Gamma f***ing dies, Tails learns that he can do things on his own and doesn't always need to rely on Sonic. Amy more or less learns the same lesson as Tails, I guess. And Big literally just goes fishing. What the f*** do you think he learned? All in all though, I think Sonic Adventure 1 gets a bad rap. I think people are used to the Sonic Adventure DX port, which is not a good port, but it's still not a bad game. But the port could definitely be better, and I think that's the one that most people have played. If you're going to play Sonic Adventure, I highly suggest the Steam version with the Sonic Adventure Dreamcast textures and whatever mod. Again, I'll have that stuff in the description. It's super easy to install, and if you want an in-depth video of the changes made from the Dreamcast to the Adventure port, Cybershell did a fantastic video looking at like every texture individually, and it's really interesting and in-depth, so I'd suggest that as well. I think that's going to do it. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this. I can't think of anything more to say other than I like the game. I think for Sega's first time doing a 3D Sonic, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse, and I still think what we have is a nice little charming game that definitely is not as bad as everyone always constantly parades around that it is. But I thank you for watching. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to plug my useless garbage, so if you don't want to see that, you can leave. Or not, I don't care. Anyway, if you wanted to see the writing process for this, because it was a goddamn nightmare, and even still, I barely used the script, because my writing is terrible, and I shouldn't have even wrote a script to begin with. Just an outline is really what I should have gone with. If you want to see every single draft of this script in PDF form, it is over on Patreon, just $1 a month, and you can see all of it, or $5 if you really want to. Patreon maybe do 2 tiers. I'd only wanted the one $1, but Patreon was like, oh, do 2, so it's $1 and a $5. They do the exact same thing. Pick your poison, but that's over there if you want to read in depth the script for all of this and make fun of me for how absolutely garbage I am at writing. And if you want to take screenshots or you know, you want to point out examples or whatever and send them to me, you can send them directly to me over on Twitter at Trent on Twitter. And then also, if you want to watch me stream on Twitch, I do it at least once a week right now. I'm going to work on maybe doing it twice a week again. We're going to try. We'll see. At least once a week I stream on Twitch over on twitch.tv/Trenaki. And be sure to subscribe here so you don't miss another video in like 5 months. It shouldn't be that long, I promise, I hope, dear God. But until then, we're going to talk about what I believe is my favorite 3D Sonic game of all time next month. I'll see you then.